Danny Richardson grabbed the photo from Marcus's locker and ripped it in half. Emma's smiling face torn down the middle. "Your kid tells everyone you're some kind of war hero." Danny laughed, holding the pieces. "A submarine welder, a legend. That's the funniest thing I've heard all year." Marcus didn't move. His hands hung at his sides. Scarred hands. Burned hands. Hands that had sealed hull breaches under 300 feet of ocean while ships sank around him. "You're nothing but a mop guy, Cole. And your daughter's a liar, just like her old man." Something in Marcus's eyes changed. Cold. Controlled. Dangerous. Tonight, 400 people would learn exactly who the mop guy really was. Comment your city below. Let's see how far this story travels. Danny let the torn pieces fall to the floor. Emma's face scattered across the dirty tile. Her smile. Her missing front tooth. The picture Marcus had taken on her first day of second grade. "Pick it up." Marcus's voice was quiet. Too quiet. Danny's smirk faltered. Something in those words made the air feel different. Heavier. "What did you say to me?" "I said pick it up." The two security guards behind Danny shifted uncomfortably. They'd never heard the janitor talk like this. The mop guy was supposed to be passive, quiet, broken. Danny stepped closer, got in Marcus's face. Close enough that Marcus could smell the coffee on his breath. "Or what, old man? You gonna mop me to death?" Marcus didn't blink. "I'm asking you nicely. One time. Pick up my daughter's picture." Danny laughed, looked back at his buddies. "You hear this? The toilet cleaner thinks he's tough." He turned back to Marcus, and Marcus moved. Not fast, not violent, just efficient. His hand caught Danny's wrist, twisted, a pressure point technique they'd taught him in the Navy. Danny's knees buckled. He gasped. His face went white. "What the—" "Pick it up." Marcus's voice hadn't changed. Still quiet, still controlled, but his grip tightened. Danny whimpered. Okay, Jesus!" Marcus released him. Danny dropped to his knees, scrambling to gather the torn pieces. His hands were shaking. His buddies stood frozen, mouths open. "I'm sorry," Danny stammered. "I didn't mean—" "Get out." Danny ran. His guards followed. Their footsteps echoed down the corridor until they faded to nothing. Marcus stood alone. He looked down at the pieces of Emma's photo in his hands, tried to fit them together. The tear ran right through her face. His jaw tightened. He'd promised himself he wouldn't do that anymore. Wouldn't let the old Marcus out. The one who'd survived things that would break most men. The one who'd buried that survival instinct under 2 years of mop water, and yes, sir, and swallowed pride. But Danny had touched Emma's picture. Some lines you don't cross. Marcus taped the photo back together in the maintenance closet. The tear was still visible, a jagged line through his daughter's smile. But at least the pieces held. He placed it back in his locker, closed the door gently. His hands were shaking now, not from anger, from memory. The last time he'd felt that cold focus, he'd been underwater, 300 feet down. The USS Cole was sinking around him, and 17 sailors were already dead. And the hull breach was 40 feet wide, and everyone said it couldn't be sealed. Marcus had sealed it anyway. 4 hours, alone in the dark, welding blind while the ship groaned and twisted and tried to die. When he'd surfaced, they'd called him a hero, given him medals, put his name in training manuals. Then they'd sent him back down, and back down, and back down again, until the day his hands started shaking and his lungs couldn't take the pressure anymore, and the Navy doctors told him his diving days were over. 35 years old, honorable discharge, a chest full of medals and a body that had given everything it had. Sarah had left 6 months later. "I didn't sign up for this," she'd said. packing her bags. "I married a hero, not a broken man who wakes up screaming every night." She'd taken the house, the savings, everything except Emma. Emma she'd left behind. "She's too much like you," Sarah had said at the door. "Stubborn, difficult. You two deserve each other." It was the only gift his ex-wife had ever given him. His phone buzzed. Marcus pulled it out. A voicemail from Emma's school. He pressed play. "Mr. Cole, this is Principal Harrison. I need you to come in tomorrow for an urgent meeting. Emma was in another fight today. She punched a boy named Tyler Reynolds, broke his nose. She says he called her a liar about you being a Navy hero. I understand this is a sensitive topic, but we need to discuss Emma's behavior. Please call us back." Marcus closed his eyes. Another fight. The third one this month. His little girl was fighting because kids called her a liar. Because she told them the truth about her father, and nobody believed her. And she was right. Everything she'd told them was true. But how could they believe it? How could anyone believe that the quiet janitor who mopped floors at 2 a.m. was the same man who'd saved 293 sailors on a sinking warship? Marcus didn't look like a hero anymore. He looked like what he was. A 35-year-old single father with bad knees and damaged lungs, working a job that paid $12 an hour because nobody else would hire a broken veteran with PTSD and a gap in his resume. He dialed Emma's number. She picked up on the first ring. "Daddy?" "Hey, baby girl. I heard about the fight." Silence on the line. Then, small. "Are you mad?" "No, sweetheart. I'm not mad. But you can't go around punching people." "He said you were a liar. He said janitors aren't heroes. He said I made everything up." Marcus's chest tightened. "Emma." "I told him about the submarine, Daddy. About the coal. About how you saved all those people. And he laughed. He said his dad looked you up online, and there's nothing about you anywhere. He said you're just a loser who cleans toilets." Her voice cracked. She was crying now. "I'm not a liar, Daddy. I'm not. You are a hero. You are." Marcus pressed his palm against his eyes. Felt the wetness there. "I know, baby. I know you're not a liar." "Then why doesn't anyone believe me?" "Because the Navy classified most of what I did. Because heroes don't get parades. They get medical discharges and broken marriages and nightmares that never stop. Because the world doesn't care about the men who crawl into the dark places and do the impossible. They only care about the ones who look good on camera." But he couldn't say any of that to an 8-year-old. "Sometimes," Marcus said carefully, "the truth is hard for people to believe, especially when it sounds like a story. But you know what's real, Emma, and I know what's real. That's what matters." "It's not fair." "No, it's not." "Tyler said you're not coming to the parent-teacher conference tomorrow. He said his mom said you never come because you're too busy cleaning up puke." Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. "I'll be there, Emma. I promise. 4 o'clock. "You promise? "I promise. "Okay." Her voice was small, trusting. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, baby girl. Now get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow." He hung up. For a long moment, he just stood there in the maintenance closet, surrounded by mops and buckets and cleaning supplies, holding a phone that still felt warm from his daughter's voice. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. He would be there, no matter what. 3:15 a.m. Marcus was finishing the second-floor corridor when the building shook. He stopped, set the mop against the wall. The vibration came again, deeper this time. Wrong. 20 years in the Navy had taught him to read vibrations. Every ship had a heartbeat. Every structure had a rhythm. When that rhythm changed, something was broken. He sniffed the air. Faint, almost nothing. But Marcus had spent 16 years working around pressurized systems, fuel lines, gas mains, the kind of infrastructure that could kill you if you didn't respect it. Sweet, chemical, natural gas. His heart rate didn't spike. His breathing didn't change. The old training kicked in automatically, calm, focused, methodical. He pulled out his radio. "Security, this is Cole. Maintenance. I'm on second floor. Possible gas leak. Does anyone else smell that?" Static. Then Danny's voice, trying to sound tough, but failing. "Mop guy's at it again. Maybe you should stick to what you know, toilet cleaner." Laughter crackled through the channel. Marcus ignored it. "I'm serious. There's gas in this building. Someone needs to check the basement." "I'll tell you what someone needs to check," Danny shot back. "Your head, for thinking you're anything more than hired help. Stay in your lane, Cole." The radio went silent. Marcus made a decision. He dropped the mop, moved toward the stairwell, pushed through the door, and started descending. First floor. The smell intensified. Sub-basement level. The smell became a wall. His eyes watered immediately. The concentration was dangerous, potentially lethal. He'd smelled worse. On the coal, after the explosion, the fuel oil had been so thick in the water that it burned his skin. He'd welded through it anyway. This was nothing compared to that. This was just gas. The basement was a maze of pipes and ducts and mechanical systems. Marcus moved through it quickly, following the hiss, the high-pitched sound of pressurized gas escaping. He found the leak in the far corner. A main gas line, 6 inches in diameter. Carbon steel Schedule 40 pipe. A crack running 8 inches along a welded seam. Old repair work that had failed. Gas spraying out in a visible cloud. Marcus assessed it the way he'd been trained. Pressure, flow rate, concentration levels, time to ignition threshold. The math was bad. Very bad. He pulled out his phone, called building security directly. Miller answered. Young voice, scared. "Hello? This is Marcus Cole, maintenance. I need full building evacuation. Now. Major gas leak in the basement. Main line rupture." "Wait, what? Who authorized?" 400 people are going to die if you don't start moving them out. Right now. Call the fire department. Call the gas company. But get people out first. Do you understand? Silence. Then, "Yes. Yes, sir." Sir. First time anyone in this building had called him that. "How long until the gas company can shut it down?" More silence. Marcus heard Miller talking to someone, typing on a keyboard. They said 6 hours. They have to shut down the whole city block." 6 hours. Marcus looked at the crack, at the gas concentration building in the enclosed space. The building would reach ignition threshold in less than 1 hour, maybe less than 30 minutes. One spark anywhere in the basement. One static discharge. One elevator motor cycling on. 400 people would die, including one janitor who had promised his daughter he'd be at her parent-teacher conference at 4 o'clock. "Start the evacuation," Marcus said. "Get everyone out." He hung up. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. 3 men in work clothes burst through the basement door. Hard hats, tool belts, the emergency welding crew. The lead welder, Rodriguez according to his name tag, saw the leak and stopped dead. Mother of God! His crew pulled up behind him. Young guys, mid-20s. Their faces went pale. Rodriguez approached the leak slowly, assessed it the way Marcus had. His expression got worse with every second. "No chance," he said finally. "We can't touch this." "I know," Marcus said. Rodriguez turned to him, noticed the janitor uniform for the first time. "Who the hell are you?" "Maintenance." "Maintenance." Rodriguez almost laughed. "Great. Well, maintenance, unless you've got a magic wand, we're evacuating and waiting for the gas company. This is impossible." 6 hours, Marcus said. "What?" "That's how long until they can shut it down. 6 hours." Rodriguez's face changed. He understood the math too. "Then we hope the building holds." "It won't." "Then 400 people are dead and there's nothing we can do about it." Marcus stepped forward. "I can seal it." Rodriguez stared at him. "You can... what?" "I can weld that crack. Hot. In the gas. 20 minutes. Maybe less." Rodriguez looked at him like he was insane. "You're a janitor." "I was a welder. Navy. Deep sea salvage." "Navy." Rodriguez's voice was flat, disbelieving. "Deep sea salvage." 16 years. I've sealed breaches under 300 feet of water. I've welded in fuel oil fires, in flooded compartments, in conditions that would kill most people in minutes. This isn't underwater, pal. This is a gas cloud. You strike an arc in that concentration, you ignite everything. The whole building goes up. Not if I do it right. Rodriguez shook his head. There is no right way. It can't be done. I've done it before. In a gas cloud? Worse than a gas cloud. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. His eyes moved over Marcus. The janitor uniform. The scars on his hands. The calm in his face. "Who are you?" Rodriguez asked again. Different this time. Like he was actually asking. "My name is Marcus Cole. October 2000, I was on the USS Cole when it got hit by a suicide bomber in Yemen. 40-foot hole in the hull. Ship was sinking. 17 sailors dead, 39 wounded. 293 still alive, and running out of time." Rodriguez's eyes widened. "I went into the flooded compartments alone. Welded for 4 hours straight, underwater, in the dark, with fuel oil burning on the surface and the ship trying to tear itself apart around me. I sealed that breach. Saved that ship. Saved those sailors." Marcus met his eyes. "That's who I am. Now give me your torch and get out of my way." Rodriguez didn't move for a long moment. His crew exchanged glances. The crazy janitor was claiming to be the coal welder. The legend. The man they taught about in every Navy welding course. "If you're lying," Rodriguez said slowly, "you're going to kill everyone in this building, including yourself." "I'm not lying." "The coal welder is supposed to be dead. Or retired. Or, I'm 35 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with my 8-year-old daughter, and I push a mop for $12 an hour because the Navy broke my body and nobody else would hire me." Marcus's voice didn't waver. "But my hands still work. My training still works. And I can do this." Rodriguez studied him, looked at his hands, the scars, the burns, the marks of a man who'd spent his life working with fire and metal. "Jesus Christ," Rodriguez breathed. "You're really him." "I'm really him." "And you're working as a janitor?" "It's honest work." Rodriguez almost laughed. But there was no humor in it. "Okay, Cole, okay." He turned to his crew. "Get the fan, industrial, the big one from the maintenance closet, and wet towels, everyone you can find." The crew ran. Rodriguez walked to his welding cart, started checking equipment. "I'm not going to pretend I understand how you're going to do this," he said. "But if anyone can, I guess it's you." "You believe me?" I believe your hands. They don't lie. Rodriguez looked at him. The way you hold yourself, the way you assess that leak, that's not a janitor. That's a master welder. The crew returned with a fan and towels. Marcus positioned the fan to create an air current, pushing the gas cloud back slightly. Not clearing it, that was impossible, but creating a small pocket of slightly cleaner air near the pipe. He draped wet towels over the surrounding pipes. Heat sinks, moisture barriers. That technique, Rodriguez said, watching. I've never seen that. I invented it. Indian Ocean, 1985. Underwater repair on a submarine. Couldn't flood the compartment. Had to weld in seawater with radioactive coolant leaking from a cracked pipe. And you survived. Obviously. Marcus pulled on the welding gloves, checked the torch, adjusted the oxygen mix. Everyone out, he said. Now. Rodriguez hesitated. You need a ground man, someone to... If I pass out, the torch ignites the gas and we all die anyway. No point in two people dying. Marcus looked at him. Get your crew out. Get everyone out. Clear the building. Marcus, I've got a daughter, 8 years old. I promised her I'd be at her school tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Marcus's voice was steady. I keep my promises. So I'm going to seal this leak, walk out of this basement, and make that conference. Understand? Rodriguez nodded slowly. Good luck, Marcus Cole. I don't need luck. I need everyone out of this basement in the next 60 seconds. Rodriguez gathered his crew. They headed for the stairs. At the door, Rodriguez turned back. Hey, Cole. Marcus looked up. When this is over, I want the whole story. All of it. Every repair you ever made. Marcus almost smiled. When this is over, I'll buy you a beer. Rodriguez disappeared up the stairs. The basement door clanged shut. Marcus heard the lock engage from outside. Containment protocol. He was alone now. Alone with a gas leak and a welding torch, and 400 lives, depending on what happened in the next 20 minutes. He thought about Emma, her torn photograph, her voice on the phone. You are a hero, Daddy. You are. Marcus picked up the torch. Yeah, baby girl, he whispered. I am. He sparked the flame. Blue fire erupted inches from a cloud of death. And Marcus Cole, the mop guy, went to work. The flame touched metal, and Marcus's world narrowed to a single point of light. Everything else disappeared. The hiss of escaping gas, the smell burning his nostrils, the knowledge that one mistake would turn this basement into a crematorium. All of it faded into background noise. There was only the puddle, the molten metal forming under his torch, the wire feeding through his left hand, the crack sealing millimeter by millimeter. 2 inches down, 6 to go. His hands moved in small, precise circles, the same motion he'd made 10,000 times before, on ships, on submarines, under hundreds of feet of black water where sunlight never reached. The gas cloud pressed against him like a living thing, hungry, waiting. Marcus had learned a long time ago that fear was useless. Fear made your hands shake. Fear made you rush. Fear got people killed. So he didn't feel fear. He felt focus. Pure, absolute, trained focus. 3 inches sealed. The radio on his belt crackled. Rodriguez's voice, distant, filtered through static. Cole, you copy? What's your status? Marcus didn't stop working. Couldn't stop. But he answered. Working. 3 inches done. 5 to go. Building's almost clear. Fire department's setting up a perimeter. They want to know your timeline. 15 minutes, maybe less. They're saying we should pull you out. Wait for the gas company. Gas company gets here. There won't be a building left to save. Silence in the radio. Then Rodriguez again, quieter. Copy that. We're praying for you out here, Cole. Marcus almost laughed. He hadn't prayed in years. Not since Sarah left. Not since he'd realized that God didn't answer prayers from broken men in one-bedroom apartments. But maybe Rodriguez's prayers would work better than his. 4 inches sealed. The torch flame danced, blue and hot and beautiful in a terrible way. Marcus watched the metal flow, watched the crack close, watched his own hands doing impossible things. He'd always had good hands, even as a kid, before the Navy, before everything. His father had noticed it first. You've got welder's hands, son. Steady, patient. The kind of hands that can fix what's broken. His father had been a shipyard worker, 30 years building vessels for the Navy. He died of lung cancer when Marcus was 19, 3 months before Marcus enlisted. Make me proud, his father had said at the end. Do something that matters. Marcus had tried. God, he'd tried. 5 inches sealed, 3 to go. The fan coughed. Marcus's focus shattered. He glanced at the industrial fan, still spinning, still pushing air, but the motor was making a sound it shouldn't make. A whine. A strain. It had been running at maximum for 12 minutes. It wasn't designed for this kind of sustained use. Come on, Marcus muttered. Hold together. Just a little longer. The fan coughed again. The blades stuttered. Marcus turned back to his work. Faster now. Not rushed. Never rushed. But faster. The wire fed. The puddle moved. The crack closed. 6 inches sealed. 2 to go. The fan died. The motor seized with a grinding shriek. The blades coasted to a stop. The air current that had been pushing the gas back vanished. And the cloud expanded. It surrounded Marcus like fog rolling in from the ocean. Thick, invisible, lethal. The concentration spiked from dangerous to unsurvivable. He was welding in pure gas now. The radio crackled. Rodriguez's voice, urgent. Cole, the sensors are going crazy up here. The gas concentration in the basement just tripled. What happened? Fan died. Get out of there, now! The whole basement is a bomb. 2 inches left. Forget the 2 inches. You're going to die. Marcus kept working. Cole, do you hear me? Abort! Get out! Can't. What do you mean you can't? If I stop now, I have to start over. Starting over means more time. More time means explosion. Marcus's voice was calm, steady, the way it had always been in emergencies. The only way out is through. That's insane! Probably. Cole! Rodriguez, I need you to do something for me. Silence on the radio. If I don't make it out of here, I need you to find my daughter, Emma Cole. She's 8 years old, goes to Jefferson Elementary. Tell her... Marcus paused. The gas was making his head swim. Tell her that her daddy wasn't a liar. Tell her everything she said about me was true. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't make it to her conference. Rodriguez's voice cracked. Cole, don't talk like that. You're going to make it. I'm going to try, but if I don't, promise me. I promise. Thank you. Marcus turned back to the crack. 7 inches sealed. 1 to go. His lungs were burning now. Each breath felt like inhaling fire. The gas was everywhere. In his nose, his throat, his chest. His body was screaming for oxygen that wasn't there. his vision blurred at the edges. Tunnel vision. His brain starting to shut down from hypoxia. But his hands kept moving. Muscle memory. 16 years of training. 10,000 hours of practice. His hands knew what to do, even when his mind was fading. The torch flame flickered. Marcus glanced at the gauge. The oxygen tank was running low. Maybe 30 seconds of burn time left. 30 seconds to seal the last inch. He could do this. He had to do this. Emma was waiting for him. Marcus took one last breath, held it, the last semi-clean air he would get. Then he leaned into the work. The torch moved faster now. Not careful, no time for careful, but precise. Still precise. His hands refused to be anything but precise. 20 seconds left. The wire fed, the puddle flowed, the crack narrowed. 15 seconds. His lungs screamed, his chest felt like it was being crushed. His heart pounded erratically, too fast, then too slow, then too fast again. 10 seconds. His vision was almost gone. Just a tiny circle of light where the weld was forming. Everything else was darkness. 5 seconds. The crack closed. The last millimeter of metal fused together. The weld completed. The gas stopped hissing. Marcus dropped the torch. It clattered against the concrete floor, empty, useless. He tried to stand. His legs buckled. He fell backward, hit the ground hard. The back of his head cracked against concrete. Pain. Distant. Unimportant. He tried to breathe. Nothing but gas. His lungs convulsed, rejecting the poison. His heart stuttered. Stopped. Started again. Weak. Failing. The darkness closed in. Emma, he thought. I'm sorry, baby girl. I tried. Then everything went black. The basement door exploded inward. Footsteps thundered down the stairs, voices shouting, hands grabbing him, pulling him up, dragging him across the floor. Marcus felt himself being lifted, carried. The stairs passed in a blur of motion and noise. Fresh air hit his face like a slap. His lungs convulsed again, but this time they found oxygen. Real oxygen. His chest heaved. He coughed, violent, painful coughs that felt like they were tearing him apart from the inside. He's alive! Get the medics! More hands, more voices. Someone pressed an oxygen mask over his face. Someone else was taking his pulse. Marcus opened his eyes. Fluorescent lights. White ceiling tiles. The lobby of the building he'd been cleaning 3 hours ago. He was alive. Rodriguez's face appeared above him, tears streaming down his cheeks. You crazy son of a bitch! You did it! You actually did it! Marcus tried to speak, coughed instead. Blood flecked his lips. Don't talk, Rodriguez said. The medics are here. You're going to be okay. Marcus grabbed his arm, pulled him closer. The weld, he rasped. Did it hold? Rodriguez laughed, a wild, disbelieving laugh. Did it hold? Cole, it's perfect. I checked it myself. That's the cleanest emergency repair I've ever seen in my life. The gas company guy said it's better than their original installation. Marcus let his head fall back against the floor. Perfect. The weld was perfect. 400 people were alive because a janitor knew how to weld. The medics swarmed around him. IV lines, blood pressure cuffs, pulse oximeters. They worked with efficient urgency, speaking in medical shorthand that Marcus barely understood. BP's low, pulse is thready, signs of severe hypoxia. We need to transport, now. They lifted him onto a stretcher, started moving toward the lobby doors. Wait, Marcus said. His voice was weak, barely audible. Wait. The medics paused. My phone. My phone was in my pocket. I need it. One of the medics checked, found the phone, handed it to him. Marcus fumbled with the screen. His hands were shaking now. The steady hands that had never shaken during the repair were finally betraying him. He found Emma's number, pressed call. It rang once. Twice. Daddy? Her voice, sleepy, confused. It was 4 a.m. He'd woken her up. Hey, baby girl.
Daddy, what's wrong? Why are you calling so late?
I just wanted to hear your voice. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. I wanted to tell you, I love you.
I love you too, Daddy. Are you okay? You sound funny.
I'm okay, sweetheart. I'm okay now. I'll see you tomorrow, all right? At your conference, 4 o'clock. I'll be there.
You promise?
I promise.
Okay, Daddy. Good night.
Good night, baby girl. He hung up. The medic started moving again, through the lobby doors, into the cold night air. Red and blue lights flashing everywhere. Fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, and people. Hundreds of people. Standing on the sidewalk, behind the barricades, wrapped in blankets, staring at the building they'd just been evacuated from. 400 people who were alive because of him. As the medics loaded him into the ambulance, Marcus heard whispers spreading through the crowd.
Who is that? They're saying he sealed the leak. By himself? In that gas? That's impossible.
Well, somebody did it. One of the security guards, Miller, the young one, pushed through to the ambulance. Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole, is that you? Marcus looked at him. You did this? Miller's voice was awed. You actually went down there and sealed it? Marcus nodded weakly. But you're just the... Miller stopped himself, his face flushed with shame. I mean, I thought you were... The mop guy, Marcus finished for him. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Danny always said you were... But you're not... Jesus, you saved our lives. All of us. The medic gently pushed Miller back. Sir, we need to transport. Miller nodded, but he didn't move away. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Thank you. The ambulance doors closed. Marcus lay on the stretcher, oxygen mask on his face, IV in his arm, the ceiling lights blurring above him. He thought about Danny Richardson, the torn photo, the smirk. He thought about Emma, her voice on the phone, her faith in him. He thought about Sarah, walking out the door. I married a hero, not a broken man. He wasn't broken anymore. Maybe he never had been. The ambulance started moving, sirens wailing, racing through the empty streets toward the hospital. Marcus closed his eyes. For the first time in 2 years, he slept without nightmares. The hospital was chaos, nurses rushing, doctors shouting orders, machines beeping. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, aware of movement around him, but unable to focus on any of it. They ran tests, drew blood, x-rayed his chest, pumped him full of fluids and oxygen and medications he couldn't pronounce. At some point, a doctor appeared at his bedside. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 30. His face was serious. Mr. Cole, I'm Dr. Patterson. How are you feeling? Like I swallowed a fire, Marcus rasped. That's consistent with what we're seeing. You have significant damage to your respiratory system from gas inhalation. Your blood oxygen levels were dangerously low when you arrived. Frankly, you should be dead. Heard that before. Dr. Patterson looked at his chart. Your file says you're a former Navy diver. Deep sea welding. Yeah. That explains some of what I'm seeing. Your lung capacity is exceptional. Better than most people half your age. Your body has adapted to working in low oxygen environments. That's probably why you survived. Marcus almost smiled. So the Navy didn't break me completely? Apparently not. Dr. Patterson set down the chart. We're going to keep you overnight for observation. Maybe longer, depending on how your lungs respond. But I think you're going to be okay. I have somewhere I need to be tomorrow. 4 o'clock. Mr. Cole, my daughter has a parent-teacher conference. I promised I'd be there. Dr. Patterson hesitated. We'll see how you're doing in the morning, but right now, you need rest. Marcus wanted to argue, but his body was already surrendering to exhaustion. The adrenaline had worn off. The reality of what he'd done, what he'd survived, was catching up with him. He closed his eyes again. The last thing he heard before sleep took him was Dr. Patterson's voice talking to someone in the hallway. I don't know who that man is, but he's either the luckiest person I've ever treated or the toughest. Maybe both. Marcus woke to sunlight streaming through the hospital window. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The white walls, the beeping monitors, the IV in his arm. Then it all came back. The basement, the gas, the weld. He turned his head and froze. A man sat in the chair beside his bed. 60 years old, maybe. Silver hair, rigid posture. Wearing a Navy dress uniform with 2 stars on the shoulders. A rear admiral. The man was watching him with an expression Marcus couldn't read. Good morning, Petty Officer Cole, the admiral said. Marcus stared at him. Do I know you, sir? We've never met, but I know you. The admiral stood, extended his hand. I'm Rear Admiral William Hayes, Commanding Officer, Naval Special Warfare Command. Marcus shook his hand weakly. Sir, I've been out of the Navy for 2 years. I'm not sure why. I know exactly how long you've been out, Cole. I also know why. Hayes sat back down. I've read your entire service record. 3 times now, since last night. Last night? The gas leak, your repair. Word travels fast in the Navy community, especially when one of our own does something remarkable. Marcus said nothing. The firefighters who pulled you out of that basement called it impossible. The welding crew said it couldn't be done. The gas company engineers are still trying to figure out how you did it. Hayes leaned forward. But I knew it was possible. Because I'd read about you doing impossible things before. I was just doing my job, sir. Your job? Hayes almost smiled. Your job is pushing a mop, Cole. What you did last night was something else entirely. Marcus looked away, toward the window. The sky was blue outside, clear and bright and ordinary. Can I tell you a story? Hayes said. Marcus nodded. 25 years ago, I was a young lieutenant, fresh out of the academy, stationed on the USS Cole. Hayes paused. I was there, Cole. October 2000. I was on that ship when the bomb hit. Marcus's breath caught. I remember the explosion, the chaos, the water rushing in. I remember thinking we were all going to die. Hayes's voice was steady, but his eyes were distant, remembering. And then someone said a welder was going down, into the flooded compartments, into the darkness, by himself. Marcus closed his eyes. I didn't see you that day. I was on the upper decks, helping with the wounded. But I heard about what you did. Everyone heard. The man who sealed the breach that couldn't be sealed. The man who saved 293 sailors. I was just doing my job, Marcus repeated. No, you were doing something extraordinary. Hayes stood, walked to the window. After that day, I made it my mission to track your career. Every repair you made, every impossible situation you survived. I watched you become the best deep-sea welder the Navy ever produced. And then I washed out. Hayes turned back to him. You didn't wash out, Cole. Your body gave out. There's a difference. Doesn't feel like a difference. I know. Hayes walked back to the bed. I also know what happened after. The medical discharge, the divorce, the PTSD, the job applications that went nowhere because civilian companies don't know what to do with a hero who can't dive anymore. Marcus's jaw tightened. You've done your research. I've done more than research. I've been looking for you for 2 years. Why? Hayes pulled something from his pocket, a business card. He set it on Marcus's bedside table. Because the Navy needs you, Cole. Not as a diver, as an instructor. We have a whole new generation of welders who need to learn what you know. The techniques, the improvisation, the ability to do impossible things when the manual says it can't be done. Marcus looked at the card. I'm a janitor, sir. I clean toilets and mop floors. You're a hero who's been hiding in plain sight. And last night, you proved that the skills that made you legendary haven't gone anywhere. Hayes moved toward the door. I'm not asking you to answer now. Think about it. Talk to your daughter. But when you're ready, call that number. The Navy wants you back, Cole. On your terms. Hayes reached the door. Paused. One more thing. The building you saved last night? 412 people evacuated safely. Lawyers, security guards, cleaning crews. Every single one of them is alive because of you. He looked back. That little girl of yours? The one who tells everyone her daddy's a hero? She wasn't lying, Cole. She never was. Hayes left. Marcus lay in the hospital bed, holding the Admiral's card, watching the sunlight move across the ceiling. For 2 years, he'd believed he was finished, broken, used up. Maybe he'd been wrong. The door opened again. A nurse entered, checking his vitals. Mr. Cole, you have more visitors. A lot more. There's a crowd in the waiting room. A crowd? Firefighters, mostly, and some men in construction clothes. They say they worked with you last night. The nurse smiled. Also, about a dozen journalists. Everyone wants to talk to the man who saved 400 lives. Marcus thought about Danny Richardson. The smirk. The torn photo. Your daughter's a liar, just like her old man. He thought about the parent-teacher conference. 4 o'clock. What time is it? Almost noon. Marcus sat up. His chest protested. His lungs burned. But he pushed through it. I need to get out of here. Mr. Cole, the doctor said... I know what the doctor said, but I made a promise to my daughter. And I keep my promises. The nurse hesitated. Then she smiled. Let me get Dr. Patterson. Maybe we can work something out. Marcus nodded. He looked at the Admiral's card one more time. Then he tucked it into his pocket. First, the conference. First, Emma. Everything else could wait. 4 o'clock was coming, and Marcus Cole, the mop guy, the welder, the hero, was going to be there, just like he'd promised. Dr. Patterson stood in the doorway with his arms crossed. This is against medical advice, Mr. Cole. I want that on the record. Marcus was already pulling on his shirt. The movement sent pain shooting through his chest, but he ignored it. He'd worked through worse pain before. Noted. Your lungs are damaged. You need rest. You need monitoring. You need at least another 24 hours of observation. What I need is to be at my daughter's school in 4 hours. Dr. Patterson sighed, walked into the room, closed the door behind him. Look, I get it. I have kids too. But you almost died last night. Your body has been through severe trauma. If you push yourself too hard, Doc. Marcus turned to face him. 2 years ago, I got discharged from the Navy. Medical. My lungs couldn't handle the pressure anymore. My body was broken. I lost my career, my wife, my house, my savings. Lost everything except my daughter. He pulled his jacket on, winced at the pain. For 2 years, I've been mopping floors and cleaning toilets, taking orders from punks half my age, getting called mop guy by people who wouldn't last 5 minutes doing what I used to do. And every day, I've told myself it's okay. It's honest work. It pays the bills. It lets me be there for Emma. Marcus met the doctor's eyes. But here's the thing. My little girl has been getting into fights at school because she tells people her daddy's a hero. She tells them the truth about what I did in the Navy, and they call her a liar. They make her feel ashamed of me. His voice cracked. Last night, I did something that proved she was right, that I was everything she said I was. And there's a conference at her school in 4 hours where I can finally show everyone, that Emma Cole is not a liar. He picked up his phone, his wallet, the Admiral's card. So with all due respect, Dr. Patterson, I'm walking out of this hospital. You can sign a release form, or you can call security. But either way, I'm going to be at Jefferson Elementary at 4 o'clock. Dr. Patterson was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a prescription pad. I'm writing you a script for pain medication. Take one every 6 hours, no more. And I want you back here tomorrow morning for a follow-up, 9 a.m. Don't make me send someone to find you. Marcus almost smiled. Yes, sir. And Cole? Dr. Patterson extended his hand. What you did last night was incredible. Your daughter's lucky to have a father like you. Marcus shook his hand. I'm the lucky one. He walked out of the hospital room, down the hallway, past nurses and doctors who stopped to stare at him. Word had spread fast. The elevator doors opened. Marcus stepped inside. A woman was already there. 40s, well-dressed, expensive jewelry. She looked at him, his rumpled clothes, his pale face, the hospital bracelet still on his wrist. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you the man from the news? The one who saved all those people?" Marcus pressed the button for the ground floor. "I don't know what you mean." "It's all over the television. The gas leak downtown. They're saying a janitor sealed the pipe by himself, in a cloud of gas. They're calling it a miracle." The elevator descended. "Some people are saying it's fake, that it couldn't have happened, that no one could weld in those conditions." The woman studied his face. "But looking at you, you look like someone who's been through something terrible." The doors opened. Marcus stepped out. "It wasn't a miracle," he said without turning back. "It was just training." He walked through the lobby and into the afternoon sun. The hospital was swarming with reporters. Cameras, microphones, news vans with satellite dishes on top. They were clustered around the main entrance, waiting. Marcus spotted them and stopped. He couldn't deal with this, not now. He had somewhere to be. A hand touched his shoulder. He spun around. Rodriguez was standing there, still wearing his work clothes from last night. His eyes were red-rimmed, like he hadn't slept. "Cole, Jesus, you're actually up and walking." "I've got somewhere to be." "I know, the school. Your daughter." Rodriguez held up a set of car keys. "That's why I'm here. Figured you might need a ride." Marcus stared at him. "You waited here all night?" "Half my crew did too. They wanted to meet the man who did the impossible." Rodriguez nodded toward the parking lot. "Cars this way. We can avoid the reporters if we go through the side exit." They walked together, fast, quiet, avoiding the camera crews. Rodriguez's truck was parked in a loading zone. He unlocked it, and they both climbed in. "Jefferson Elementary, right?" "How do you know that?" Rodriguez started the engine. "You told me last night, remember? When you asked me to find your daughter if you didn't make it out." Marcus had forgotten. The gas, the hypoxia, Parts of the night were fuzzy now. I remember. Emma Cole, 8 years old, gets in fights because kids call her a liar about her dad. Rodriguez pulled out of the parking lot. I've been thinking about that all night, about how you went down into that basement knowing you might die, and your biggest worry was that your little girl would never know the truth about you. Marcus watched the streets pass. The city looked normal. Cars, pedestrians, traffic lights, like nothing had happened. What time is it? 2:30. We've got time. I need to stop somewhere first. Where? My apartment. I can't show up to my daughter's school looking like this. Rodriguez glanced at him, took in the wrinkled shirt, the hospital bracelet, the pale skin. Yeah, okay. Good call. The apartment building was nothing special. 3 stories, faded brick, a parking lot with cracks in the asphalt. Marcus had lived here for 18 months, ever since the last of his savings ran out. Rodriguez pulled into a spot near the entrance. I'll wait here. Marcus nodded, climbed out. His legs were unsteady, but they held. He made his way up the stairs to the 2nd floor, unlocked his door, stepped inside. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. Emma's drawings covered the refrigerator. Crayon pictures of submarines, of divers, of a stick figure with the word Daddy written underneath. He'd never realized how sad this place looked until now. Marcus showered quickly. The hot water stung his skin, made his damaged lungs ache, but it felt good to be clean. He shaved, put on his best clothes, khaki pants, a blue button-down shirt, his one good pair of shoes. He looked at himself in the mirror. 35 years old, gray already showing at his temples. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. Hands scarred from a lifetime of working with fire and metal. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like what he was, a tired single father who'd been through too much. But today, that would be enough. He grabbed his wallet, his phone, his keys, paused at the door. On the shelf by the entrance was a small wooden box. He'd brought it with him from his old life, the only thing he'd kept when Sarah took everything else. He opened it. Inside were his medals, the Navy Cross, the Silver Star, 3 bronze stars, the Combat Action Ribbon, the unit citations and commendations that documented 16 years of service. He'd never shown them to Emma, never talked about what they meant. He'd wanted to protect her from that world, from the knowledge of how close her father had come to dying so many times. But maybe that had been a mistake. Maybe she'd needed to see them all along. He took the box and walked out the door. Rodriguez was leaning against his truck, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when Marcus approached. "Whoa, you clean up nice." "Thanks for waiting." "No problem. Hey, you should see this." Rodriguez held up his phone. "You're famous, Cole." The screen showed a news website. The headline read, "Miracle Welder Saves 400 in Downtown Gas Emergency." Below it was a blurry photo, security camera footage maybe, of a man in a janitor's uniform walking into a basement. "They don't have your name yet," Rodriguez said. "Building management isn't releasing it, but everyone's talking about the hero janitor. It's trending on Twitter." Marcus handed the phone back. "I don't care about Twitter." "You should. You're going to be dealing with a lot of attention after this. Right now, all I care about is getting to that school." They drove in silence for a while. The city passed by outside the windows, ordinary and unchanged. "Can I ask you something?" Rodriguez said eventually. "Sure. Last night, when you told me about the USS Cole, about saving those sailors, why didn't you ever tell anyone? Why hide it? Why work as a janitor when you could have been, I don't know, consulting?
Teaching? Making real money?
Marcus was quiet for a moment. You ever hear of survivor's guilt?
Yeah.
When the coal got hit, 17 sailors died. 17 kids, most of them were just kids, who never got to go home. I spent 4 hours in that flooded compartment, welding, and the whole time I could hear things bumping against me in the dark. I told myself it was debris, just debris. His voice dropped. It wasn't debris. Rodriguez said nothing. I saved 293 people that day, but I couldn't save those 17. And every time someone called me a hero, every time they gave me another medal, all I could think about was the ones I didn't save, the ones who floated past me in the dark while I was welding. Marcus stared out the window. After I got discharged, I didn't want to be a hero anymore. I just wanted to be invisible. To do simple work that didn't matter, that didn't have life and death attached to it. I thought if I could just be ordinary, maybe the guilt would stop. Did it? No, it never stops. You just learn to carry it. Rodriguez pulled up to a red light. For what it's worth, he said quietly, what you did last night wasn't about guilt or survival or any of that. It was about 400 people who got to go home to their families because you refused to give up. That includes me, Cole. I was in that basement when you told me to get out. If you hadn't sealed that leak, I'd be dead right now. The light turned green. So thank you. Not as a welder, not as a colleague, as a father who gets to see his kids again because of you. Marcus didn't trust himself to speak. He nodded. They drove the rest of the way in silence. Jefferson Elementary looked exactly like Marcus remembered. Red brick, white trim, an American flag hanging limp in the windless afternoon. Parents were pulling into the parking lot, heading for the conference. Rodriguez stopped at the entrance. You want me to wait? No, you've done enough. Marcus opened the door, paused. Rodriguez, thank you for everything. Hey, you promised me a beer in your whole story. I'm going to collect on that. You will. Marcus climbed out, straightened his shirt, tucked the wooden box under his arm. He walked toward the entrance. The hallways smelled like chalk and hand sanitizer. Construction paper artwork lined the walls. Marcus followed the signs to room 217, Mrs. Patterson's second-grade class. Parents were gathered in the hallway outside. Mothers in yoga pants, fathers in business casual. They chatted and laughed and checked their phones. No one noticed Marcus. He was used to that. He found the door to room 217 and looked through the window. Emma was sitting at a desk near the front. Her head was down. She looked small, alone. Across from her sat Mrs. Patterson, a gray-haired woman with reading glasses perched on her nose. She was talking, gesturing, but Marcus couldn't hear what she was saying. He opened the door. Everyone looked up. Mr. Cole, Mrs. Patterson rose from her desk. We weren't sure you were going to make it. I said I would be here. Emma's head snapped up. Her eyes went wide. Daddy! She launched herself out of the chair and ran to him. Hit him like a small torpedo, wrapping her arms around his waist. Marcus knelt down, ignoring the pain in his chest, and held her tight. You came. You really came. I promised, didn't I? You promised. That's right. He pulled back, looked at her face. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. Nothing's wrong now. She hugged him again. I knew you'd come. I told Mrs. Patterson you'd come. Mrs. Patterson cleared her throat. Mr. Cole, if you'd like to take a seat, we can begin. Marcus stood,
kept his arm around Emma's shoulder. They walked to the desk together. "Before we start," Mrs. Patterson said, "I should mention that there's been an incident. A boy named Tyler Reynolds has been spreading rumors about Emma, calling her a liar, saying that her claims about you aren't true." "I'm not a liar," Emma said fiercely. "I know, sweetheart." Marcus squeezed her shoulder. He looked at Mrs. Patterson. "What kind of claims?" Mrs. Patterson shifted uncomfortably.
"Emma has been telling the other children that you were a Navy welder, that you saved hundreds of sailors on a ship, that you're a hero." She paused. "The other children have been skeptical. Tyler's father looked you up online and couldn't find anything. He's been telling people that Emma is making up stories." Marcus felt Emma tense beside him. "I'm not making it up. Tell her, Daddy. Tell her it's true." Marcus looked at his daughter, her fierce eyes, her trembling lip. She believed in him so completely, so absolutely. He set the wooden box on Mrs. Patterson's desk. "What's this?" the teacher asked. "Proof." He opened the lid. Mrs. Patterson's eyes went wide. She reached out, touched the Navy cross, read the citation attached to it. This says you sealed a hull breach on the USS Cole, under fire, in flooded compartments, that you saved," she looked up at him, 293 sailors?" "Yes, ma'am." "And this silver star?"
It says you prevented a nuclear submarine from sinking in the Indian Ocean. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Patterson sat back in her chair. Her hand was shaking. "Mr. Cole, why didn't you tell us? When Emma was getting in trouble for telling these stories, why didn't you just show us this?" Marcus looked at Emma. "Because I wanted my daughter to have a normal life. I didn't want her to grow up in the shadow of what I did. I thought if I could just be a regular dad, with a regular job, she could just be a regular kid." He knelt down in front of Emma. "But I was wrong, baby girl. You were never ashamed of me. You were proud. And I should have let you be proud instead of hiding who I was." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "So I'm not a liar?" "No, sweetheart, you never were. Everything you told them about me was true. Every single word." She threw her arms around his neck, buried her face in his shoulder. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, baby girl. More than anything." The classroom door opened. A man walked in. Tall, expensive suit, irritated expression. Behind him was a boy about Emma's age, with a bandage on his nose. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm sorry we're late. Tyler had a doctor's appointment." He stopped, noticed Marcus. His eyes narrowed. "You must be Cole, the janitor." Marcus stood up, kept Emma behind him. "That's right." "I'm Richard Reynolds, Tyler's father." The man's voice dripped condescension. "I've been wanting to meet you. My son came home with a broken nose because your daughter attacked him." "Your son called my daughter a liar." "Because she is a liar." Reynolds stepped closer. "She's been telling the whole school that her daddy's some kind of war hero. Meanwhile, you're pushing a mop for minimum wage. I looked you up, Cole. There's nothing online about you. No records, no news articles, nothing. Your daughter made the whole thing up, and when Tyler called her on it, she assaulted him." Mrs. Patterson stood up. "Mr. Reynolds, I think you should see this." She gestured to the box on her desk. Reynolds glanced at it, froze. His face went pale. What is this?" "These are Mr. Cole's service medals. Navy Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Stars. Citations for valor from 3 separate combat operations." Mrs. Patterson's voice was cold.
It appears your son has been bullying a little girl for telling the truth. Reynolds stared at the medals, at Marcus, back at the medals. That's not possible. I searched online. There was nothing. Most of what I did was classified, Marcus said quietly. Submarine operations, sensitive repairs, the kind of work that doesn't show up on Google. Reynolds's face went red. Well, that doesn't excuse your daughter breaking my son's nose. You're right, it doesn't. Marcus looked at Emma. Sweetheart, you shouldn't have hit Tyler. Even when someone is being mean, violence isn't the answer. Emma looked at the floor. I know, Daddy. I'm sorry.
Marcus turned back to Reynolds. But maybe your son should learn that calling someone a liar has consequences, especially when that someone is telling the truth. Reynolds opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. The classroom door banged open. 2 men walked in. One of them was Rodriguez. The other was a stranger, middle-aged, wearing a fire department uniform. Sorry to interrupt, Rodriguez said, but I thought you might want to see this. He held up his phone. The screen showed a news broadcast. A reporter was standing in front of the building from last night. Confirming now that the hero who saved over 400 lives in last night's gas emergency has been identified. His name is Marcus Cole, a 35-year-old Navy veteran who was working as a janitor in the building. Authorities are calling his actions nothing short of miraculous. The room went silent. Reynolds stared at the screen. His jaw dropped. That's you? Marcus said nothing. The fire department official stepped forward. Mr. Cole, I'm Battalion Chief Morrison. I was the incident commander last night. He extended his hand. I wanted to thank you personally. What you did in that basement was the most extraordinary act of bravery I've witnessed in 30 years of service. You saved 412 people, including 18 of my firefighters who were setting up the perimeter. Marcus shook his hand. I was just doing what needed to be done. Sir, you welded a pressurized gas line in a cloud of pure methane. That's not what needed to be done. That's impossible. Except you did it. Morrison looked at Emma. Is this your daughter? Yes, sir. Morrison knelt down to Emma's level. Young lady, your father is a genuine American hero. What he did last night will be studied in fire academies for decades. You should be very, very proud of him. Emma looked up at Marcus. Her face was glowing. I already was. Reynolds backed toward the door. His son followed, head down. We should go. I have a meeting. No one tried to stop him. After he left, Mrs. Patterson let out a long breath. Well, that was unexpected. She looked at Marcus. Mr. Cole, I owe you an apology. I should have believed Emma from the beginning. I should have asked more questions instead of assuming. You didn't know, Marcus said. Nobody knew. That was the point. Still, she's been struggling all semester, and I could have helped her if I'd just listened. Mrs. Patterson straightened her papers. Going forward, I think things will be different. For both of you. Marcus nodded. Emma tugged on his hand. Daddy, does this mean I can tell people the truth now? About the submarines and the coal and everything? Marcus looked at her. His fierce, stubborn, wonderful daughter. Yeah, baby girl. You can tell them everything. She hugged him again. And for the first time in 2 years, Marcus Cole felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The news vans were waiting outside the school. Marcus saw them through the front windows and stopped. 3 vans, maybe 4. Reporters with microphones. Cameramen adjusting their equipment. All of them pointed at the entrance like wolves watching a rabbit hole. Daddy, why are there TV people here?
Emma pressed against his side, her hand gripping his. "They want to talk to me about what happened last night."
Are you going to be on TV?
Marcus watched the reporters. One of them spotted movement through the window and pointed. The camera swung toward the door. "I don't think I have a choice." Rodriguez appeared beside him. "I can pull my truck around back. There's a service entrance by the cafeteria. We can get you out without—" "No." Marcus squeezed Emma's hand. "I spent 2 years hiding, running from who I was.
Letting people think I was nothing but a mop guy because it was easier than facing the truth."
He looked down at his daughter. "That ends today." He pushed open the door. The reporters swarmed.
Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole, can you tell us about last night?
"Is it true you sealed the gas leak by yourself?
How did you survive the gas exposure? What's your reaction to being called a hero?"
Marcus walked through them, Emma tucked against his side. He didn't stop, didn't answer. The questions blurred together into noise. A woman stepped directly into his path, blonde, professional, holding a microphone with a network logo on it.
"Mr. Cole, I'm Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7. The whole city wants to know your story. Can you give us just 5 minutes?"
Marcus stopped. He looked at Jennifer Walsh, at her camera crew, at the dozen other reporters pressing in behind her. "You want my story?"
"Yes, sir. The whole country is watching."
Marcus turned to face the cameras.
My name is Marcus Cole. I'm 35 years old. I'm a single father. For the past 2 years, I've worked as a janitor in a downtown office building, cleaning floors and scrubbing toilets for $12 an hour. The reporters fell silent. Microphones pressed closer. Before that, I spent 16 years in the United States Navy as a deep-sea welder. I served on submarines. I did underwater salvage and repair work in conditions that would kill most people. I have medals in a box at home that I never showed anyone because I didn't think they mattered anymore. His voice didn't waver. Last night, there was a gas leak in the building where I work. A main line ruptured. The gas company said it would take 6 hours to shut it down. The building didn't have 6 hours. So I sealed the leak myself.
"How?" someone shouted. "How did you weld in the gas cloud?" Training, experience, and the fact that 400 people were going to die if I didn't try. Marcus paused.
I almost died doing it. The ventilation fan failed halfway through. I finished the repair in pure gas with no oxygen. When they pulled me out, my heart had stopped twice. Gasps from the crowd. But here's what I want you to understand. Marcus pulled Emma closer. This is my daughter, Emma. She's 8 years old. For months, she's been getting in fights at school because she told people the truth about her father. She told them I was a Navy welder, that I saved sailors on the USS Cole, that I was a hero. His jaw tightened. And everyone called her a liar. Her classmates, their parents, even some of her teachers. They looked at me, the janitor, the mop guy, the nobody, and they assumed my little girl was making things up. He looked directly into the nearest camera. She wasn't. Everything she said was true. Every single word. My daughter is not a liar. She never was. Jennifer Walsh's eyes were glistening.
"Mr.
Cole, what do you want people to take away from your story?" Marcus thought about it. Don't judge people by their job title. The person mopping your floor might have medals in a box at home. The guy emptying your trash might have saved more lives than you'll ever know. Everyone has a story. Everyone has value. And my daughter knew that before any of you did. He turned away from the cameras. That's all I have to say. He walked to Rodriguez's truck, Emma beside him, the reporters parting like the Red Sea. Rodriguez was already behind the wheel, engine running. That was something else, Cole. Marcus climbed in.
helped Emma into the back seat. "Just take us home." The apartment felt different now. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking at the small space he'd called home for 18 months. The same cramped kitchen, the same second-hand furniture, the same drawings on the refrigerator. But something had changed. Or maybe he had changed. "Daddy, I'm hungry."
Emma tugged at his sleeve. "Okay, baby girl, what do you want?"
Can we have pizza? To celebrate?
Marcus smiled. "What are we celebrating?"
You being a hero on TV, and Tyler Reynolds being wrong, and everyone knowing I'm not a liar."
She grinned up at him. "That's a lot of things to celebrate."
Yeah, I guess it is.
He ordered pizza. They sat on the couch together, watching cartoons, eating pepperoni slices, and drinking soda. Normal father-daughter stuff. The kind of evening Marcus had always wanted, but never felt like he deserved. Around 7 o'clock, his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. He almost didn't answer. "Hello?"
Mr. Cole, this is Diane Chen, from the building.
Marcus sat up straighter. "Mrs. Chen, I didn't expect—"
I just saw the news. I had no idea. About your service, about any of it.
Her voice was thick.
I knew you were something special. I could see it in the way you carried yourself. But I never imagined—
It wasn't something I talked about. Marcus, I'm calling to apologize. The way Danny treated you, the things he said, I should have done more. I should have stopped it. You were the only one in that building who treated me like a person, Mrs. Chen. You don't owe me any apology." Silence on the line. "There's something else," Diane said. "Danny Richardson was fired this morning. Building management reviewed the security footage from last night. They saw him refusing to take your warning seriously. They saw him mocking you on the radio while the gas was spreading. If you hadn't gone down there yourself, what happened to Danny isn't my concern. Maybe not, but I thought you should know." She paused. "There's also talk of offering you a new position. Not janitor, something in building operations, management level. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss it." Marcus looked around his apartment. At Emma on the couch, sauce on her chin, laughing at the TV.
"That's kind of them, but I think I'm done with that building."
"I understand. Whatever you decide, Marcus. Thank you for what you did. For all of us." She hung up. Marcus set down the phone. Emma looked at him.
Who was that, Daddy?
"Someone from work. It's not important."
Are you going back to work tomorrow?
Marcus sat beside her. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe not to that job."
Good.
Emma snuggled against him.
I didn't like that job. The people there were mean to you.
"Not all of them."
Most of them.
Marcus kissed the top of her head. "You're too smart for your own good. You know that?"
I know.
They finished the pizza. Emma fell asleep against his shoulder during the third cartoon. Marcus carried her to bed, tucked her in, sat beside her for a long time just watching her breathe. His little girl. The only thing he'd done right in his whole messed-up life. He went back to the living room, pulled out the Admiral's business card, looked at it in the lamplight. Rear Admiral William Hayes, Naval Special Warfare Command. The Navy wanted him back. Not as a diver, his body couldn't do that anymore, but as an instructor, a teacher, someone to pass on what he knew to the next generation. It was tempting, more than tempting, but it would mean changing everything, moving, traveling, time away from Emma. He'd sacrificed enough for the Navy, given them his lungs, his marriage, his best years. Did he have anything left to give? A knock at the door. Marcus tensed. It was after 9 o'clock. Nobody visited him at this hour. He crossed to the door, looked through the peephole. A man stood in the hallway. Young, late 20s, wearing a leather jacket. His face was familiar,
but Marcus couldn't place it. He opened the door. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Cole?" The man extended his hand. "My name is James Patterson. My father was on the USS Cole." Marcus's breath caught.
25 years ago, James continued, my father was a petty officer second class. He was in the flooding compartment when the bomb hit. He would have drowned if someone hadn't sealed the breach. Marcus remembered. The water rushing in. The darkness. The bodies bumping against him as he worked. "Your father survived?" "Because of you." James's eyes were wet. "He's 67 now, retired in Florida. He's watched you on the news all day. He asked me to find you, to give you something." James reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope. "He wrote this for you. Said he's been wanting to say these things for 25 years, but never knew how to find you." Marcus took the envelope. His hands were trembling. "He also wanted me to tell you something in person." James's voice cracked. "He said that for 25 years he's thought about the man in the dark. The welder who went into the flooded compartments when everyone else was running the other way.
He said you're the reason he got to see me grow up. The reason he got to walk me to my first day of school, and my high school graduation, and my wedding last year." Tears spilled down James's cheeks. "He said, I exist because of you. My wife is pregnant, our first child, and that baby will exist because of you too." Marcus couldn't speak. The words were lodged in his throat. "My father wants to meet you, Mr. Cole. He's flying up tomorrow if you're willing. He says it's time he thanked you face to face." Marcus wiped his eyes. "Tell your father I'd be honored." James nodded, shook his hand, walked away. Marcus closed the door, leaned against it, slid down until he was sitting on the floor. He opened the envelope. The letter was handwritten, 3 pages. The handwriting was shaky, an old man's hand, but the words were clear. "Dear Welder," it began, "for 25 years I've called you that because I never knew your name. You were just a shadow in the darkness, a torch flame in the flood. But you were the most important shadow of my life." Marcus read the whole letter. When he finished, he was sobbing. Not from sadness, from something else, something he hadn't felt in years. For so long, he'd focused on the 17 sailors who died, the ones he couldn't save, the bodies in the dark, the guilt that never went away. He'd forgotten about the 293 who lived, the families they'd built, the children they'd raised, the grandchildren who existed because a welder went into the dark and refused to come out until the job was done. His sacrifice hadn't been pointless. It had rippled outward through time, creating lives he'd never known about, touching futures he'd never imagined. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was more than enough. The morning came gray and cold. Marcus woke on the couch, the letter still clutched in his hand. His back ached. His lungs still burned from the gas exposure. But something inside him felt lighter. Emma padded out of her bedroom, hair tangled, eyes sleepy. "Daddy, are you okay?" "Yeah, baby girl, I'm okay." "You slept on the couch." "I know. Got distracted by something." He held up the letter. "I'll tell you about it when you're older." She climbed onto the couch beside him, curling into his side like she'd done since she was a toddler. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "What happens now?" Marcus looked at the letter, at the Admiral's card on the coffee table, at the world outside the window. "I don't know yet, but I think things are going to be different." "Good different or bad different?" "I'm not sure. We'll find out together." His phone rang. Admiral Hayes. Marcus answered. "Cole,
You've seen the news? Hard to miss. Half the country knows your name now. The other half will know by tomorrow. Hayes's voice was serious. The Navy is getting calls. Congressional offices, veterans groups, media outlets. Everyone wants to know why a decorated hero was mopping floors for minimum wage. I made my choices. I know you did. But the world is watching now, Cole. And the Navy has an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To do right by you. Finally. Hayes paused. I'm putting together a press conference for tomorrow morning. The Secretary of the Navy will be there. We want to formally recognize your service, both on the coal and in that basement. Full honors, in front of the whole damn country. Marcus was quiet. There's also the matter of my job offer, the instructor position. If you accept, we'll announce that too. Show the world that the Navy takes care of its own, even the ones who fell through the cracks.
Admiral, I appreciate the offer, but I have a daughter. I can't be traveling all over the country teaching classes while she grows up without me.
I anticipated that. The position is at the Naval Training Center in Norfolk. Day shift. You'd be home every night. And there's military housing available. 3 bedrooms. Good school district nearby. Your daughter would have stability, Cole. Better than what you've got now. Marcus looked at Emma. Let me think about it. Take all the time you need. The press conference is at 10 tomorrow at the Pentagon. I'll send a car for you at 7. I haven't said yes. You haven't said no either. Hayes's voice softened. Cole, you spent 2 years punishing yourself for surviving. Don't you think it's time to stop? The call ended. Emma tugged at his sleeve.
Who is that?
A man from the Navy. He wants to give me a job.
What kind of job?
Teaching. Showing other people how to do what I used to do.
Would you have to go away?
I'd be home every night. I promise. Emma considered this.
Would I have to change schools?
Yes, but you'd go to a new school where nobody calls you a liar, where you could start fresh.
Would Tyler Reynolds be there?
No.
Then I think it's okay.
She hugged him. As long as you're home every night. You promised. I promised. The rest of the day passed in a blur. More phone calls, more reporters trying to track down his address. Rodriguez stopped by with groceries and news. The welding community was buzzing about the gas line repair. Engineers were already analyzing the technique, trying to figure out how he'd done it. Around 4 in the afternoon, another knock at the door. Marcus opened it to find Danny Richardson standing in the hallway. His first instinct was to close the door, but something in Danny's face stopped him. The arrogance was gone. The smirk had vanished. Danny looked smaller somehow, diminished. What do you want? Danny swallowed hard. I came to apologize. Marcus said nothing. I saw the news. I saw everything. Danny's voice shook. The medals, the USS Cole, what you did in the basement. He looked at the floor. I've been treating you like garbage for 2 years, calling you names, making your life miserable. And the whole time you were a hero? Yeah. Danny met his eyes. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me to go to hell? I gave you so many reasons to put me in my place. Marcus leaned against the doorframe. Because you weren't worth it. Danny flinched. I've faced down things that would make you piss yourself, Danny. Flooded compartments, burning fuel, ships trying to tear themselves apart around me. You think your little insults were going to break me? Then why let me do it? Because fighting you would have meant explaining who I was, and I wasn't ready to be that person again. Marcus paused. But more than that, I felt sorry for you. Sorry for me? You're what, 28, 29?
And the highlight of your day is making a janitor feel small? That's not strength, Danny. That's weakness. You're so insecure, so empty inside, that you have to tear other people down just to feel like you matter.
Danny's face crumpled. I know that now. I got fired this morning because I didn't listen to you. 400 people almost died because I was too proud to take a warning from the mop guy. His voice broke. I'll never forgive myself for that. Marcus studied him. The Danny Richardson from yesterday would never have come here. Would never have admitted he was wrong. Would never have apologized to someone he considered beneath him. I'm not that guy anymore. I can't be. Not after seeing what you did. Then don't be. Change. Actually change. Marcus straightened up. But don't do it for me. Don't do it to feel better about yourself. Do it because it's the right thing to do. He started to close the door. Cole, wait! Danny reached into his jacket, pulled out something small. I found this in the break room, after you left last night. I've been carrying it around all day, trying to work up the courage to bring it back. He held out his hand. Emma's photo.
Taped back together, but the pieces were all there. Her smile, her missing front tooth, her first day of second grade.
Marcus took it.
The pieces were on the floor, Danny said quietly. I should never have touched it. I'm sorry.
Marcus looked at the photo, at his daughter's face. Get help, Danny. Talk to someone. Figure out why you need to hurt people to feel good about yourself. He met Danny's eyes. That's the only forgiveness I can offer you. Danny nodded, turned, walked away. Marcus closed the door. He stood there for a long moment, holding his daughter's picture, thinking about second chances and forgiveness, and whether people could really change. Then he went to find some tape. Better tape this time, the kind that would hold. That night, Emma fell asleep early. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, the Admiral's card in front of him, a blank piece of paper beside it. He picked up a pen. Pros, he wrote. Good job. Steady income. Benefits. Housing.
Good school for Emma. A chance to matter again.
Cons, he paused. Giving the Navy more of my life. Uprooting Emma from everything she knows. Becoming public, visible, when I've spent 2 years trying to be invisible. He stared at the lists. They didn't help. This wasn't a decision you could make with pros and cons. It was a decision about who he wanted to be, what kind of life he wanted to build. For 2 years, he'd been hiding, playing small, convincing himself that obscurity was the same as peace. But it wasn't peace. It was just fear. Fear of being seen. Fear of being judged. Fear of failing again after everything he'd already lost. The gas leak had forced him out of hiding. The cameras had exposed him to the world. There was no going back to invisibility now. So the question wasn't whether to change. Change was already happening, whether he wanted it or not. The question was whether he'd face it with courage or retreat into fear again.
Marcus thought about his father, the shipyard worker who'd spent 30 years building vessels for the Navy, the man who'd told him, with his dying breath, to do something that matters. He thought about the 293 sailors he'd saved on the Cole, the families they'd built, the futures that existed because he'd refused to give up. He thought about Emma, her fierce pride, her unwavering belief in him, her certainty that her daddy was a hero, even when the whole world called her a liar. She deserved a father who lived up to her faith. Marcus picked up his phone, dialed the Admiral's number. Hayes? It's Cole. I'm in. The car arrived at 7 sharp. Marcus was already waiting outside the apartment building, wearing the one suit he owned,
the same suit he'd worn to his divorce hearing 3 years ago. Emma stood beside him in her best dress, holding his hand, her eyes wide at the black government sedan pulling up to the curb. A Navy officer stepped out.
Young, crisp uniform, perfect posture. Mr. Cole, I'm Lieutenant Davis. Admiral Hayes sent me to escort you to the Pentagon. I know where the Pentagon is. Yes, sir. But the Admiral wanted to make sure you arrived in style. The lieutenant opened the back door. Ma'am, after you. Emma giggled. No one had ever called her ma'am before. They climbed in. The leather seats were soft. The windows were tinted. Air conditioning hummed quietly. Daddy, this is fancy. Don't get used to it. Why not? Marcus smiled. Because fancy doesn't last. What lasts is what you earn. The lieutenant pulled away from the curb. The city slid past the windows, gradually giving way to highways, then the Virginia suburbs, then the looming shape of the Pentagon itself. Emma pressed her face against the glass. Is that where you're going to work? No, that's just where they're going to give me a piece of paper and shake my hand. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. I'll be working at a training center, teaching people how to weld. Like you taught yourself? I didn't teach myself. Lots of people taught me over the years. Now it's my turn to pass it on. The car pulled into a security checkpoint. IDs were checked. Gates opened. They drove into the heart of American military power. Marcus had been here before, 20 years ago, when he'd received his first commendation. He'd been young then, proud, full of belief in himself and his future. He wasn't young anymore, but maybe he was finding his way back to that belief. The press conference was held in a large briefing room. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled the seats. Military officials in dress uniforms stood along the sides. At the front, a podium waited beneath the seals of the Navy and the Department of Defense. Admiral Hayes met them at the door. Cole, glad you made it. He looked down at Emma. And this must be the famous Emma Cole. I've heard a lot about you, young lady. Emma straightened up. I've heard a lot about you too, sir. Hayes laughed. She's got your fire, Cole. That's good. She'll need it. He led them to seats in the front row. Emma sat between Marcus and Rodriguez, who'd driven down separately. Behind them, Marcus noticed other faces, familiar and unfamiliar. Diane Chen from the building, Dr. Patterson from the hospital, Fire Chief Morrison, the welding crew who'd been in the basement that night. And in the back, standing alone, an old man in a wheelchair. Marcus's breath caught. The man was frail, 70s, maybe older, thin white hair, weathered face. But his eyes were sharp, and they were fixed on Marcus with an intensity that cut across the crowded room. James Patterson stood behind the wheelchair. He caught Marcus's gaze and nodded. His father, the sailor from the Cole, the man who'd written the letter. Before Marcus could react, Admiral Hayes took the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. We're gathered today to recognize an extraordinary act of heroism, and to right a wrong that's been allowed to stand for far too long. The room fell silent. 3 nights ago, a gas main ruptured in a downtown office building. Over 400 people were inside. The gas company estimated 6 hours to shut down the line. The building didn't have 6 hours. It didn't have 1. Hayes paused. A man named Marcus Cole went into that basement alone. He sealed the leak with a welding torch, working in a cloud of pure methane that should have killed him instantly. The ventilation failed halfway through. He finished the repair in conditions that our own engineers call impossible. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But this wasn't the first time Marcus Cole did the impossible.
Hayes clicked a remote. Images appeared on the screen behind him. The USS Cole, the gaping hole in its hull.
October 12, 2000. The USS Cole was attacked by suicide bombers in Yemen. 17 sailors died. The ship was sinking, and Marcus Cole, then a 25-year-old petty officer, went into the flooded compartments alone and sealed the breach that saved 293 lives. More images, medals, commendations, documents marked classified. Over his 16-year career, Marcus Cole performed underwater repairs that the Navy considered impossible. He worked on nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, destroyers. He earned the Navy Cross, the Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars. He was, by any measure, one of the finest welders the United States Navy has ever produced. Hayes looked at Marcus. And then his body gave out. The pressure damage caught up with him. He was medically discharged at 33, with a chest full of medals and a future that seemed to have disappeared. The room was completely still. For the past 2 years, Marcus Cole has been working as a janitor, mopping floors, cleaning toilets, taking abuse from people who had no idea who they were talking to. He did this quietly, without complaint, because he believed his days of mattering were over. Hayes's voice hardened. The Navy failed this man. We gave him medals and commendations, and then we let him fall through the cracks. We let a hero disappear into obscurity because our systems weren't built to catch someone who didn't ask for help. He turned back to the crowd. Today, we begin to make that right. It is my honor to present Marcus Cole with the Navy Distinguished Service Medal, in recognition of his lifetime of extraordinary service to the United States Navy, and to the nation he has served so faithfully. An aide approached with a velvet box. Hayes opened it. Inside was a medal, gold, gleaming, heavy with meaning. Marcus, would you please join me? Marcus stood. His legs felt unsteady. The walk to the podium seemed impossibly long. Hayes pinned the medal to his chest. This medal recognizes what you've done, Hayes said quietly, just between them. But it can't repay the debt we owe you. Nothing can. All I can offer is the chance to keep doing what you do best, saving lives, one weld at a time. Marcus nodded. Words wouldn't come. Hayes stepped back. I'd also like to announce that Marcus Cole has accepted a position as lead welding instructor at the Naval Training Center in Norfolk. He will be teaching the next generation of Navy welders the skills and techniques that have saved countless lives, including, most recently, 412 civilians in downtown. Applause erupted. Marcus stood at the podium, the medal heavy on his chest, looking out at the crowd. He saw Emma, beaming with pride. Rodriguez, wiping his eyes. The old man in the wheelchair, tears streaming down his face. Hayes leaned into the microphone. Mr. Cole, would you like to say a few words? Marcus approached the podium. The cameras focused on him. The reporters leaned forward. The room waited. I'm not good at speeches, Marcus began. I've spent most of my life working in places where no one could hear me anyway. Underwater, in the dark, alone. He paused. 3 nights ago, I went into a basement that was filling with poison gas. I did it because 400 people were going to die if I didn't. But that's not why I stayed when the ventilation failed. That's not why I kept welding when my lungs were burning and my heart was stopping. He looked at Emma. I stayed because of her, my daughter. The little girl who's been telling everyone that her daddy's a hero, even when nobody believed her, even when they called her a liar. She never stopped believing in me, not once. His voice cracked. For 2 years, I thought I was nothing. I thought the man who sealed the Cole and saved those submarines was gone, replaced by someone who just pushed a mop and tried not to think about the past. I was wrong. He turned back to the crowd. That man was never gone. He was just waiting. Waiting for a moment when he'd be needed again. Waiting for a chance to prove that the skills and the training and the will to survive aren't things you lose when they take away your dive certification. They're part of who you are. Forever. Marcus straightened. I want to thank Admiral Hayes for this opportunity. I want to thank the Navy for not giving up on me, even when I'd given up on myself. And I want to thank everyone in this room who came here today to see an old welder get a medal he probably doesn't deserve. Soft laughter. But most of all, I want to thank my daughter Emma. He met her eyes across the room. Baby girl, you were right about me. You were always right. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see what you saw all along. He stepped back from the podium. The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, the room broke into smaller conversations. Reporters tried to reach Marcus, but Navy personnel formed a protective barrier, giving him space. He found himself surrounded by people who wanted to shake his hand, thank him, tell him their own stories. But there was one person he needed to see. He made his way to the back of the room, where the old man still sat in his wheelchair. James Patterson stood behind him, one hand on his father's shoulder. Marcus stopped in front of the wheelchair. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then the old man reached up with a trembling hand. "You," he said. His voice was thin, papery, but strong. "I've been waiting 25 years to meet you." Marcus took his hand. The grip was weak, but warm. "I read your letter, sir. I don't have words for what it meant to me." "My name's William. William Patterson." The old man's eyes were wet. "I was in compartment 3 when the bomb hit. The water came in so fast, I couldn't see anything. Couldn't breathe. I thought I was dead." He squeezed Marcus's hand. "Then I heard it. The torch. That hiss and crackle. Someone was down there with me. Someone was trying to save us. I couldn't see who it was, just the light of the torch in the darkness. But I knew that whoever it was, they were going to seal that breach or die trying." Marcus knelt down, bringing himself to William's level. "I tried to save everyone, sir, but 17 didn't make it. I couldn't get to them in time." "I know." William's voice was gentle. "I've thought about them every day for 25 years. The ones who died. The ones I couldn't help. But I've also thought about the ones who lived. The 293 who got to go home because of what you did." He released Marcus's hand, reached into his jacket, pulled out a photograph. "This is my family. My wife, Margaret. She passed 5 years ago. My son, James. My daughter-in-law. And this," his voice caught, "this is my granddaughter. She's 4 years old. Her name is Sarah." Marcus looked at the photo. A little girl with blonde hair and bright eyes, laughing at the camera. "She exists because of you, Marcus. My whole family exists because you went into the dark when everyone else was running away." William pressed the photo into Marcus's hands. "I want you to have this. I want you to look at it whenever you start to think that what you did didn't matter. Because it did. It matters more than you'll ever know." Marcus couldn't speak. The tears were flowing freely now. William reached up and gripped his shoulder. "You saved my life, son. And in doing so, you gave me the greatest gift anyone can give. Time. Time to see my son grow up. Time to hold my granddaughter. Time to tell the people I love how much they mean to me." He paused. "You gave me 25 more years of living. And I've tried to spend every single day being worthy of that gift." Marcus wiped his eyes. "Thank you, William.
for writing to me, for coming here today.
For helping me see that maybe I did some good after all.
Some good, William laughed, a warm, genuine laugh. Son, you did more good in that one night on the coal than most people do in a lifetime. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise, including yourself. James stepped forward. Mr. Cole, my father's tired. We should probably get him back to the hotel. But I wanted to thank you again for everything. Marcus shook his hand. Take care of him. I will. I've been taking care of him my whole life. James smiled. It's the least I can do for the man who made sure I had a father to take care of. They left, James pushing the wheelchair toward the exit. Marcus watched them go. He felt a small hand slip into his. Emma looked up at him. Daddy, are you okay? Marcus looked at the photograph in his other hand. The little girl named Sarah, laughing without a care in the world. Yeah, baby girl. I'm okay. I'm better than okay.
2 months later, Marcus stood in front of 40 young sailors. The classroom was functional, military standard. Desks in rows, a whiteboard at the front, fluorescent lights humming overhead. But the students, they were the opposite of standard. They were eager, nervous, hungry to learn, just like he'd been 30 years ago. Good morning, Marcus said. I'm Marcus Cole. Some of you might have seen me on the news. Some of you might know about the USS Cole, or the gas leak, or any of the other things people keep talking about. But that's not why you're here. He walked to the front of the room. You're here because you want to learn how to weld, not just how to join metal. Any machine can do that. You're here to learn how to weld when everything is trying to kill you, when the ship is sinking, when the air is poison, when the manual says it can't be done. He picked up a welding torch from the table beside him. This is just a tool. It doesn't care if you live or die. It doesn't care if the ship sinks or the building explodes. It just makes fire. What matters is the person holding it, the person who decides to keep going when every instinct says to run. He set the torch down. I'm going to teach you techniques you won't find in any textbook. Improvisation, adaptation, the kind of thinking that comes from doing this work for real, in conditions that would kill most people. He paused. But more than that, I'm going to teach you how to make decisions, because that's what separates the welders who survive from the ones who don't. A hand went up. Young kid, barely 20. Sir, is it true you welded the USS Cole in the dark? That you couldn't even see what you were doing? Marcus nodded. 4 hours. Flooded compartment. Fuel oil burning on the surface. I couldn't see my own hands. I had to feel my way along the breach, inch by inch, sealing it by touch. The kid's eyes went wide.
How is that possible?
It's possible because I'd done it 1,000 times before. In training, in practice, in every repair I ever made before that night. When the moment came that everything depended on me, my hands knew what to do, even when my brain couldn't keep up. He looked around the room. That's why we train. Not so you can follow procedures when everything is perfect. So your body remembers what to do when everything falls apart. So that when you're in the dark, and the water's rising, and people are depending on you, your hands keep moving. Another hand. Sir, what made you decide to come back, after everything you'd been through? Marcus thought about it. My daughter. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She kept telling people I was a hero, even when I was mopping floors and feeling sorry for myself. He smiled. Turns out she was right. And I figured if an 8-year-old could see what I'd forgotten, maybe it was time to start seeing it again. The students laughed. Now, Marcus picked up a pair of welding gloves. Let's get to work. 6 years passed. Hundreds of welders came through Marcus's program. They learned his techniques, his philosophy, his approach to impossible situations. They went out into the fleet and they did extraordinary things. Repairs that saved ships, rescues that saved lives, innovations that changed how the Navy thought about underwater welding. Every one of them knew Marcus's story. Every one of them aspired to be like him. But Marcus never forgot who he really was. He was a father first, a teacher second, a hero only when circumstance demanded it. Emma grew up, 13 now, tall and fierce and brilliant. She'd inherited her father's stubbornness and her mother's sharp tongue. She fought for what she believed in and refused to back down from anyone. Marcus couldn't have been prouder. They lived in military housing in Norfolk. 3 bedrooms, like Hayes had promised. A good school nearby. A community that respected Marcus's service and embraced Emma as one of their own. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was good. Better than Marcus had ever expected. One evening in late October, Marcus sat on the back porch, watching the sun set over the naval base. Emma came out and sat beside him.
Dad,
Yeah?
do you ever regret it? The Navy, the welding, all of it? Do you ever wish you'd done something else with your life?
Marcus thought about it. I regret the 17 sailors I couldn't save on the coal. I regret the years I spent feeling sorry for myself instead of being there for you. I regret letting your mother walk away without a fight. He turned to her. But do I regret the work, the welding, the lives I saved? He shook his head. No, never. Not for a second.
Even the gas leak? Even almost dying?
Especially that. Because that night reminded me who I was. It forced me to stop hiding and start living again. He put his arm around her. And it proved that you were right about me all along. Emma leaned against his shoulder.
I was always right about you, Dad. I just had to wait for you to figure it out yourself.
Marcus laughed. You sound like your mother.
I'll take that as a compliment.
They sat together, watching the last light fade from the sky.
Dad?
Yeah?
I'm proud of you. Not because of the medals or the news stories or any of that. I'm proud of you because you're my dad. Because you never gave up on me, even when you'd given up on everything else.
Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. I never gave up on you, baby girl. I never could.
I know.
She hugged him.
That's what makes you a hero.
The call came at 3:47 in the morning. Marcus was 61 years old, retired from teaching, but still consulting on difficult repairs. His lungs had finally given out 2 years ago. Too much gas, too much pressure, too many years of pushing his body beyond its limits. He knew when the phone rang at that hour what it meant. Mr. Cole, this is Dr. Harrison at Norfolk General. I'm sorry to inform you. Marcus didn't hear the rest. He'd known this was coming. The doctors had warned him. His heart had been weakened by the gas exposure, by the decades of stress, by the impossible demands he'd placed on his body. But knowing didn't make it easier. He made the calls. Emma, now 32, married with 2 children of her own. Rodriguez, still teaching at the training center. Admiral Hayes, long retired but still a friend. They came to him. All of them. Sat with him through the long night as his body began its final shutdown. Emma held his hand.
Dad, can you hear me?
I hear you, baby girl.
Is there anything you need? Anything I can do?
Marcus smiled. You've already done it. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You gave me a reason to keep going,
when I wanted to give up. He squeezed her hand. You saved my life, Emma.
Not the other way around. Tears streamed down her face. I love you, Dad. I love you too, more than anything in this world. He closed his eyes. The monitor beeped. Steady. Slow. Then slower. Then still. The funeral was held at Arlington National Cemetery. Full military honors. Flag-draped coffin. A Navy band playing taps. Hundreds of people in attendance. Admirals, welders, sailors who'd served with Marcus, students he'd trained, civilians he'd saved. And at the front, in the place of honor, Emma Cole stood with her 2 children. Her son, 8 years old, held an American flag. Her daughter, 5, clutched a photograph, the same photograph William Patterson had given Marcus years ago. Little Sarah, laughing at the camera. Sarah, who'd grown up to become a nurse. Sarah, who'd named her first daughter Emma, after the little girl who'd believed in her father. The chaplain spoke words of comfort and faith. The rifles fired their salute. The bugler played, and then it was over. The crowd dispersed slowly. Hands shook. Condolences offered. Stories shared about the man who'd sealed the impossible breach, who'd saved 400 lives in a cloud of poison gas, who'd taught a generation of welders to do the impossible. Emma stood alone at the grave. The headstone was simple. Marcus Cole, beloved father, Navy welder. He sealed the breach. She touched the stone. You were right, Dad, about everything. About work that matters. About not giving up. About being there for the people who depend on you. She wiped her tears. I'm going to tell your grandchildren about you. About all of it. The coal. The gas leak. The years you mopped floors and never complained. The way you taught me that heroes don't need permission or approval. They just pick up the torch and do the work. She stepped back. Rest now. You've earned it. I'll take it from here. She turned and walked away. Behind her, the sun rose over Arlington. Thousands of white headstones stretched across the green hills, marking the resting places of men and women who'd given everything for their country. Marcus Cole lay among them now, another quiet hero in a field of quiet heroes. But his legacy wasn't in the ground. It was in the welders he'd trained, carrying his techniques into the future. It was in the sailors who'd survived because of his repairs. It was in the 400 people who'd gone home to their families after a Tuesday night that should have ended in tragedy. It was in Emma, and in her children, and in all the generations yet to come who would hear the story of the mop guy who turned out to be a legend. Some people are remembered for their power, or their wealth, or their fame. Marcus Cole would be remembered for something simpler and truer. He would be remembered as the man who never gave up. The man who went into the dark when everyone else ran away. The man who sealed the breach when the world said it couldn't be done. Because that's what heroes do. They don't wait for permission. They don't ask for approval. They pick up the torch, and they do the work, and they save the lives that need saving. And when it's over, they go back to mopping floors, until the next time the impossible needs doing. Marcus Cole was a janitor, a father, a teacher, a welder. And he was, from first breath to last, a hero. The end.